This was Luxembourg in the early 1600s at 10,700 kilometers squared. In 1659, it lost this territory to France, and in 1815, these parts were ceded to Prussia. And Belgium later took this huge portion in 1839 to give us today's Luxembourg, with 23% of the area it started with. The story of Luxembourg begins over 35,000 years ago in the Paleolithic era, when early humans left their mark. But we have to fast forward to the 5th millennium BC to see the first signs of organized Neolithic settlements and communities. The Celts arrived in the Iron Age, roughly around 600 BC to 100 AD. Among them, there was a Gaulish tribe called the Treviri, and this tribe rose to prominence, reaching its peak in the 1st century BC. In 53 BC, Julius Caesar and his forces swept through the region, bringing the land under Roman control. Unlike many tribes, the Treviri cooperated with their conquerors, embracing Roman customs and culture. But by the 4th century, a new challenge emerged when the Germanic Franks began to infiltrate, and by 406 AD, the Roman Empire abandoned the area, leaving behind a legacy that would shape Luxembourg's future. Around the year 480, the land that would one day become Luxembourg became part of the Merovingian Austrasia, a key region in the early Frankish kingdom, and this one later transitioned into the powerful Carolingian Empire, which helped shape its medieval identity. The Treaty of Verdun in 843 carved Europe into new territories, placing Luxembourg's land in Middle Francia. The main changes, however, started in 959 when the area joined the Duchy of Upper Lorraine within the Holy Roman Empire. This was a period that laid the groundwork for Luxembourg's rise as a medieval stronghold. Siegfried I, Count of Ardennes, is the person who truly starts Luxembourg's story as the entity we know today. In 963, he acquired an ancient fort known as Little Castle. He got it through an exchange act with St. Maximin's Abbey in Tree. And around this modest castle, a town gradually developed, which became the center of a state with great strategic value within the Duchy of Lorraine. It was here that Luxembourg's history as a distinct entity took root, setting the stage for centuries of growth and influence. Although Siegfried I bought the castle and started the House of Luxembourg, it was his great-grandson that first called himself Count of Luxembourg. By the middle of the 13th century, the Counts of Luxembourg had managed to gain considerable wealth and power, and had expanded their territory, which was culminated by Henry VII becoming King of the Romans, King of Italy, and finally in 1312, the Holy Roman Emperor. Luxembourg remained as an independent county within the Holy Roman Empire until 1354, when Emperor Charles IV of House Luxembourg elevated it to the status of a duchy, with his half-brother becoming the first Duke of Luxembourg. For over 100 years, the House of Luxembourg contended with the Habsburgs for dominance in the Holy Roman Empire and Central Europe. However, in 1443, a succession crisis brought their reign to an end, when Sigismund and Elizabeth had no heirs, leading to the territories being divided among European nobility. The Duchy of Luxembourg was claimed by Philip the Good, who was then the Duke of Burgundy, starting a period of 400 years of foreign rule as part of the Burgundian Netherlands. During this era, Luxembourg became deeply entangled in the power struggles between the Habsburgs and the Kingdom of France. In 1542, King Francis I of France invaded Luxembourg twice, but the Habsburg forces under Charles V successfully reclaimed the duchy on both occasions. Luxembourg was like the last piece of pie at a royal banquet. Everybody wanted it, but no one could keep it. Things took a turn for the worse in 1635 during the war between France and Spain, after which the Treaty of the Pyrenees was signed in 1659. And this treaty marked the first major loss of Luxembourg's land. Spain had to surrender 3 key fortresses along with the surrounding areas to France. This reduction in territory was the first time Luxembourg shrank in size, and it won't be the last one. In the late 1600s, Luxembourg couldn't catch a break. France invaded and occupied the duchy during the 9 Years' War, but in 1697 it was handed back to Spain for political support. Fast forward to 1701, the duchy was swept to war once again, but this time for the Spanish succession, and it switched sides between the pro-French and pro-Austrian factions. By the time the French Revolution hit, Luxembourg had become a chess piece between big empires. In 1794, France took over, formally annexing Luxembourg and making it part of the Department of Forests. The French banned Catholic traditions and forced French as the only language. This did not bring joy to the locals and led to the 1798 Peasant Rebellion, which France swiftly crushed, leaving a bitter memory for the people of Luxembourg. The second loss of land came with the 1815 Congress of Vienna, where the great powers decided that Luxembourg would become a member state of the newly formed German Confederation. But at the same time, William I, the King of the Netherlands, would become the Duke of Luxembourg. And in the same treaty, to satisfy Prussia, it was decided that not only the fortress of Luxembourg would be manned by Prussian troops, but also that large part of Luxembourg territory would become Prussian possessions. Fast forward to the Belgian Revolution and secession of Belgian lands from the Netherlands, the new country of Belgium claimed Luxembourg as their own, which didn't spark joy for the Dutch or the Prussians. So in 1839, Luxembourg suffered its third territorial loss with the 1839 Treaty of London, which resolved the dispute over Luxembourg by ceding more than half the country, including the predominantly francophone western region and some other parts to Belgium. So this change gave Luxembourg its current borders. The treaty also recognized full independence of the remaining Germanic-speaking Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Although it got its current borders in 1839, the drama didn't stop there. In 1842, Luxembourg joined the German Customs Union, which opened the German market and spurred the development of Luxembourg's steel industry and railway networks. Prussia and France continued their game of who gets Luxembourg with the crisis of 1866 that nearly led them to war once again. And so Luxembourg's neutrality had to be reaffirmed in the Second Treaty of London, leading to the withdrawal of Prussian troops and the dismantling of the fortress of Luxembourg. Those two countries still went to war in 1870, but this time Luxembourg's neutrality was respected. In the late 19th century, Luxembourg's sense of independence grew, culminating in 1890 when it gained its own monarchy after the Dutch succession crisis, which secured full independence. However, during World War I, Germany violated Luxembourg's neutrality by occupying the country. Despite this, Luxembourg maintained much of its independence. The calls for abdication of Grand Duchess Mary Adelaide and the establishment of a republic grew louder because of her collaboration with Germany. She abdicated in 1919 and a referendum upheld the monarchy. This country couldn't catch a break. Luxembourg's neutrality was once again violated during World War II when Nazi Germany occupied the country, formally annexing it. Luxembourg's government, however, didn't like the German occupation, of course, and supported the Allied powers, with the citizens joining the resistance and fighting in Normandy. After the war, Luxembourg joined the United Nations and NATO, becoming a founding member of the European Coal and Steel Community and later the European Union. In the 20th century, Luxembourg transitioned from an industrial base in steel to becoming a global financial center and eventually a knowledge economy, significantly contributing to the EU's development. And so, from a tiny castle in the 10th century, Luxembourg fought off invaders, lost half its land multiple times, survived French revolutions, both world wars, and even a royal scandal or two. But somehow it survived, with its own monarchy, a powerful financial sector, and a passion for staying true to itself. Luxembourg might just be the most resilient country you've ever heard of. I mean, their national motto says it all: we want to remain what we are. Well, folks, they sure have. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe and leave a comment if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time on Council of Knowledge.